No problem. What's up, IBT family? We're going to be breaking down the NASCAR futures market tonight with our guy, Full Tank Phil. It's a loaded episode for you, so sit tight. It's the Backroad coming at you.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checker flag. That's all this
What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday evening. This is the Backroad. It's In Between Media's Fantasy NASCAR and NASCAR betting show. Elliot Hicks and Seth Woolcock back with you. And as Seth mentioned in the intro, one of our favorite guests, Phil from Full Tank with Phil, is back with us to break down our season-long bets. Phil, nice to have you here again. Thanks again for hopping on with us.
I appreciate the invite, fellas. I'm fired up, getting back off the schneid, and what a perfect way to do it, having this conversation with you guys about these future bets. I'm excited.
Hell yeah. Good to see you, boys. Good to be back in the NASCAR streets once again. And Elliot, pretty good first week for us, and the regular season hasn't even kicked off, so we have a little bankroll to put into some futures tonight, so I'm excited about it.
Yeah, we most certainly do. We got our first bets out of the way at the Clash at the Coliseum. Maybe a couple things to talk about before we fully step in the rear view. Yes, Seth?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I totally missed it on last week's episode, so I wanted to shout out a new partnership we started this year. The first one being with iFantasy Race. This is the best stat provider around. They have loop data. They have some more advanced metrics like the total speed rankings that we look at each and every week. And I will say the comp total speed rankings for last week led me right to Denny Hamlin. I really wasn't interested in Hamlin until I saw how good he was at those short flats last year. So we'll be doing a weekly asterisk mark ranking mini segment with him each week. So excited about that. You can now also find the Backroad on iFantasyRace.com. So excited about that, Elliot. Phil, I know you use iFantasy Race a lot as well.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's definitely, a go-to site every week for anyone who's looking to do this, whether you're, doing any content like we're doing right now, or if you're just someone who likes to bet NASCAR casually. It's a perfect website to go to and get so much information on there. Yeah, it's a must hit every week.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah. Every week we got our tiers rolling. I've got my iPad set up right here. iFantasy Race Total Speed Rankings. Definitely a must to set that up.
Yeah, and you can check out the website for free, or you can get a membership and get some more exclusive content over there as well. And I promise you, it is worth every single penny. Also, just wanted to remind the IBT family of our subscriber goal. We're headed over, hopefully, Elliot, draft weekend. So it's kind of a big weekend for IBT late in April. So we're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers before then. We'll do some giveaways if we make it there. So that's what's kind of on the table right now. We appreciate everyone's support so much so far this season. It's been great to continue to see the IBT family grow. Looks like we got Erik in the chat already saying bankroll looking flushed right now. Yeah, I know Erik's been out there in the college basketball streets. Hopefully he got down with some of our NASCAR bets last week as well. So good to see everyone piling in here. Elliot, any final announcements for you?
Yeah, just don't forget you can also tail our bets on the Betting Pros app. Seth, you've already got that set up. I think I'm getting that set up before we hit Daytona, so you guys can follow us. We talk about some stuff on the show. Maybe you guys bet everything you say. I don't always bet everything I say. Sometimes I find some bets even later the next day, Sunday morning. I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to throw some coin on this. I'll put it on that app, and that way you can follow what we're really doing and make some more money off of that in case we get some new info. We do this Thursdays. You get to Saturday, Sunday, maybe some things have changed. Maybe we have new things to hop onto. And if you're not scrolling Twitter on race day, things like that, another good place to follow us and make some coin from us, hopefully.
Good for post-qualifying, good for post-practice bets. That's something I feel like I'm often tailing. I'm looking, there's actually a NASCAR group on Betting Pros there that I'm often looking at. What is everyone kind of getting down here on after practice and qualifying, and also live betting? As you know, I'm not a huge live better, Elliot. I watch too many races on DVR, but when I am live, I do get that itch sometimes too. So good to see that overall. And also a reminder, you can check out Elliot, Ozzy, and I's articles over there, inbetweenmedia.com, every week as well. And we're flying them out fast and furious this year, Elliot. A lot of content coming out the door.
No doubt about it. Yeah, just any way you can take a look at our stuff. Hopefully it'll make you some coin, and hopefully you enjoy it. Like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. But hey, enough about that. Let's get to the racing now, and let's look back on the clash in the rear view. So the Clash weekend was one to remember, both on and off the betting sheet. Remember, we mentioned that it was supposed to be Sunday night, obviously. I mentioned briefly, oh, hey, it's supposed to rain, like torrential downpours, crazy flood levels in Los Angeles. NASCAR makes the decision to move up the Clash, move up everything about 4 hours before things were about to start. They're like, all right, we got to do everything tonight or it's not going to happen. So they pushed up everything. They made it free to attend for everybody who could still make it. Unfortunately, we lost the heat races. We lost the last chance qualifier. And as a result, we had some pretty big names miss the show. But hey, I mean, we were still tailing it pretty well. My being high on Austin Dillon really didn't work out for me. But we still had some good bets this week, including hitting that outright with Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, shout out to NASCAR for getting this in. I know a lot of people avoided betting this race in general because they were worried about the weather. I know a lot of programs didn't have their episodes last week. Just one, it was, it's the Clash and not everyone wants to bet on that. And two, the weather was kind of a big factor in it. So shout out to NASCAR for getting that done. Phil, what was your overall takeaway just like from that quick action? Because we never see that with this sport.
No, I mean, I got a chance to listen to Larry Mack. I mean, he's somebody that everybody loves, right? And he's
America's
I
crew
love
chief.
hearing his insight.
Yes,
America's crew chief. He had a great podcast back in the day, but I heard his take on it on the radio yesterday from the Fox broadcast angle, and it was fascinating. Like he was saying this has never happened before. Obviously, we all know that now, but to hear the behind the scenes craziness and NASCAR being like quick decision making, that gives me confidence because we know that we have not had luck. NASCAR and weather just do not mix. And so hearing just the behind the scenes takes on all of that gives me confidence for this year for when they do face some more adversity, because week after week, it felt like last year they were faced with weather stuff. And I don't know, getting off to a good start this year, excuse me, made a good decision. They got some good feedback for it. So I feel like they're on the opposite side of that when they make decisions, but this seemed like a unanimous W. And hopefully they can continue that confidence and quick decision making because it worked out for fans and the drivers alike. So keep it up, NASCAR.
And although we were missing some fans, and I know there were probably some people got really fucked over in the travel and everything like that, which bummer, that sucks. No MGK, that kind of sucked. And, just kind of didn't have like a full Coliseum was also kind of a bummer. But this was a great freaking race, I thought, especially like if you were on some of these guys, like we happen to be Hamlin, Larson, somehow like we were on Ty Gibbs. That was kind of like our wing in the prayer. That was kind of our gut call bet. I felt like I woke up a day last week and was just like, man, I feel like Ty Gibbs is gonna have a fucking run. And we did see some differences. I felt like in this race, the gears changed a little bit. So drivers, they couldn't stay out of that corner and stay out of people as easily. It felt like they couldn't downshift as much as they had been in the past. I know some drivers were trying that. And we saw the different tire strategies in qualifying kind of work out as well. Some of those drivers, Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney, they opted to put on the scuffs because these tires weren't really getting hot till about 10 or 15 laps in, which was kind of making it quite a challenge on these restarts. But overall, I thought it was a great race. And to come out 10 positive units for us this early in the season, I feel really good about it. We hit on all our top fives, aside from Gibbs and Briscoe. Gibbs kind of some bad luck at the end. It is what it is. Briscoe, I felt good in the bet, starts near the end and works his way up to seventh. That felt good. And then ended up kind of just hedging myself a little bit with Hamlin and Toyota, and we walk away pretty good. Phil, how was it on your end?
Well, my week was, mildly comical. I had the approach kind of like what you mentioned earlier of some other folks who were just like, I'm not putting anything out as far as a show. I refuse to bet exhibition races. That's just kind of
Okay.
like my take,
Yeah.
right? And especially when I saw the weather, I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm not even worrying about this. So the one thing I did do was throw top 10 Austin Dillon in and just bet it and forget it. It was like, okay. So then the race or the Saturday afternoon comes around into, dinner time, and I'm getting text messages from like a couple of my friends who don't bet NASCAR. They're just
Mhm.
pure degenerates. There's nothing on other than like the NHL All-Star game.
Yeah.
So they're like, what's going on with this NASCAR thing? And I'm like, I literally have not even tuned in at all. Like, I don't even know what's going on. So I text Derek Yoder and I was like, what is the deal? Why am I getting messages from my buddies? And he was like, oh, well, the race is getting moved up to tonight. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. That's interesting. Sucks that like you mentioned, the heat races got canceled, but I was like, all right, that makes it interesting. Saturday night race. I'm kind of into that. He told me AD was already out. So I was like, oh, what the hell? Like, what a bad
Yeah.
break. I tune in about halfway through and I'm like, okay, this is kind of interesting. I pull up the app, like, let's see what I can get into here. And Ty Gibbs was like minus 150 to win the race. And I was like,
Wow.
like, this is nuts. So I was like, all right, who's in third place? Because in my mind, I'm thinking they're going to get down to the end. 1 and 2 are going to take each other out. Well, I got a little Denny Hamlin at 6-1.
Shut
And
up.
yeah, I threw him in. So then the end happens, right? Where Erik Jones, I think, went for a ride after Hamlin had taken the white flag. And I'm in my basement drinking. I'm like, let's go. Well, again, not realizing that this is an exhibition race, they're racking them back up. And I'm texting Derek like, this is bullshit. This is why I don't ever bet exhibition races. But sure enough, he held on. It did not feel like he was going to hang on.
Yeah.
Too. Like if you had Denny Hamlin, you felt the same way I did. Like, this is brutal. But somehow he did it. And so I was happy with a little 6-1 hit. It kind of felt like, nothing could go wrong for me. So I was like, okay, good. I'll take it. So yeah, like I said, mildly funny. And I'll run away with that one.
And honestly, like, I know you don't like the exhibition races, but between how good we did at the All-Star race, we hit every bet we placed at the All-Star race last year. And then at the Clash had a really good showing too. Like, I love these little exhibition races. I feel like there's a real edge to get out there because the books have no fucking clue what's going to happen sometimes. So Elliot, final thoughts here on the bets, on the cards, on the overall race and how it shook out for us.
Yeah, I mean, if you get it right, the exhibition races can be fun. If you miss it, though, they can be a real mess. But hey, how about that? We go 3 for 3 on Denny. I got him at 9-1. Seth, you had him at a better number, and I had the Ty Gibbs 9-1 also, and you got him at 28-1. So you were definitely sweating that a little more.
Wow.
That would have been a good pickup we had early in the week there.
Yeah, hey, it's only going to get better here. We got a couple super speedways that I won't have huge cards at, but we're going to blow a little here in the futures market and see what we can get into.
Yeah, for sure. With no race this week, again, we're going to go through some of the season-long odds, and we'll get rolling with that in our parking garage prop bets. So I feel like we got to start with the big daddy here, who's going to win the cup title, and also a betting market that I enjoy that I kind of forget is out there. They also offer bets on if the driver is going to make the championship 4 or not. So another interesting one. I know we've all got some good ones. I'll let whoever we want to get started, get rolling with it, see how we can make the most money this year come November in Phoenix.
I'm chalky as fuck at the top of my board here in the championship market. So I'll give it to Phil. Phil, did you find anything in this market that you were interested in?
Yeah. I have the approach that I'm taking with this is I'm not touching for a championship, anything that's not double digits to 1, just because I feel like, those guys who are the guys we're all thinking of that have a shot to win the championship, Hamlin, Byron, Larson, those are all the guys you'd want to take, but you could get them pretty much throughout the season. Like, that number is really not going to vary that much throughout the year. So you're trying to find some guys that are a little lower down the list that if they do snag a victory, now they're going to drop a little bit and that number might disappear. So that's my mentality with it. I got a few guys that I put out on my podcast, but I'll call out a couple. I'll go one first, and then let you guys take, and I'll wrap up with another guy later. But the first one, this is one you got to just kind of hear me out on, because I fully understand it would be crazy if Penske were to go 3 years in a row for winning a championship. But Joey Logano hanging at 12-1 seems a bit crazy to me. I think that number is worth looking at because for whatever reason, Penske has figured out a way to make it through as a company, make it through this 16 round of 16, 12, 8, and then make it to the finals.
Mhm.
And so, a couple of years ago, Logano wins the title. Last year it was Blaney. And it's at the sacrifice of their other drivers, right? Because once the other guys eliminated, they just all focus, it seems like, the resources on this one guy. Well, Logano, he had a down year last year. So I think we need to take advantage of some of the recency bias that the books are giving us here. And so 12-1 to the championship is solid. To Elliot's point about the championship 4 number, this is one that I really like because when you have these championship bets and you make it to the finals, you kind of feel like you won, but you didn't yet. They got to get the job done, but you're like, well, I'm in the finals with this 12-1 ticket. Logano being at least 225 I saw on Caesars. I don't know if you can find them elsewhere. 225 to make the final 4. Let me just give you a little wonky stat here, boys. Every even year since they've had this format, he has made the final 4. Weird. So it's like an auto bet for that value.
I tell you what, I'm glad I have other Cup title numbers on my board because I had Logano. I had him written down at 11-1. I saw him at DraftKings. 12-1, even better. I had that even year stat all queued up.
Oh, you had that too. I'm sorry.
I did. Sorry. No, you're good, man. I appreciate it. That I'm not off base here in being like, Logano with that number seems pretty damn good. And he's a guy that down year last year, it doesn't matter. He's at a point now where, as one of the seasoned veterans of the sport, he's always out there, always going to, factor in for a couple of wins a season, going to be a threat. And like you said, they've got this playoffs figured out that if they can have a couple of playoff points built up, not have bad luck early. A couple of years ago, Ryan Blaney had some bad luck early, got wiped out in the round of 16, I think, had a bad couple of races there. If you can make it through, if you can just make it there, Logano definitely has the racecraft. He's got the experience. He's already won it at Phoenix a couple of times. So why not again this year?
We got Stan in the chat saying you can get Logano over 1.5 wins at plus 110. Last season, he had 11 top 5s, which was the 4th best in the series. This is my favorite futures bet. Well, Stan, you freaking beat me to the punch because that's exactly where I was going to go. And I was just going to say, I'm on right before this show. I don't know if it updated in the Betting Pros app or not yet, but I actually went 2 units down on this exact bet. I got him at plus 105 over at Bet Rivers over 1.5 wins. So I'm curious to hear where you got plus 110. A little too late for me there. But yeah, when you look at Joey Logano here, 14 wins in the last 6 years, average of 2.3 wins per season. And as Stan points out, he was very good last season, still getting top 5, just really wasn't in contention for wins. The one thing I like about him that we haven't really mentioned, this guy is a good qualifier in this next gen car, 6 poles in the last 2 years. I think that pays dividends. Also top 10 still in the iFantasy Racing's total speed rankings across the last seasons as well. So, and I kind of feel like, Phil, you're onto something here. I didn't even think about taking him for the championship, or to make the championship 4. But I think this first round exit helps give a little more motivation, and the new schedule might help as well. We're going to Iowa, first time at a speedway. We know what Joey can do every time. Back at Chicago, Joey was pretty good at Chicago, top 10 run for him last year, and then back to the Indy Oval. I like him. If we could bet Indy right now, I would take him on the outright. He was on the pole the last time we were there, and 7 out of his last 8 trips to the Brickyard on the oval, he's been in the top 10. So I think that the schedule changes are going to help him too.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just put my last comment on Joey is kind of the intangibles. He was awkward last year. There was something off about him. I think throughout the season, before his exit of the playoffs, I think we could all say he was not himself, just off the track, whatever
Yes.
it was. I don't know what he had going on. I know it was public that he did not like the Netflix situation following him around or even in the garage. So he was like a little distracted. But you know what I love? Him arguing with Ty Gibbs after that race.
Yep.
That's like, he's back, baby. He loves being the finger wagging, son of a bitch. And whether you love him or hate him, like I go through phases where like he's annoying as hell. But when I'm on him, like I like that kind of fire because it shows that he's like, okay, I'm back. I'm really into this. I'm here. So that's, the intangible aspect of it.
To me, what it kind of reminds me of is like earlier this season, everyone in the fantasy football community, the NFL betting community was saying Travis Kelce is washed. Travis Kelce admitted himself that he was a little bit overexposed. He was on every damn commercial. He was on every damn podcast. I think Joey kind of got that same thing, that maybe racing was still his number one priority, but maybe there were some big second and third priorities. I think now he sees, hey, I need to really focus in here if I want to make a run at the top 4 or the top 8 even. So I love the call, Phil. Elliot, what else do you have here in the championship market?
Well, on Logano, I bet he loves being the guy that can point out and be the finger wagging guy because he got a lot of that when he was Ty Gibbs' age, being one of the young guys. I saw a clip of he and Ryan Newman having an argument. So Joey knows that he probably was racing like a dumbass the same way Ty Gibbs does sometimes, racing like a hothead, still learning the racecraft, still learning how not to kind of be in the way for some of these guys that can really, drive a car and not do those sort of things that young hothead drivers
not
do.
Be JoJo the circus clown. That's not be a bull in the China. That's what you're trying to say. I get you.
The response that Ty Gibbs should have had was he should have said Logano's wife wears the fire suit in the family. Otherwise, I think he was justified there. Logano at 1,100, 1,200. It's 80% performance, 20% superstition. But I like that we're all in on Joey here to start off. I kind of like the point that you made, Phil, about don't take anybody under at least 10-1 right now for the title, because those numbers will fluctuate at least a little bit. You're not going to get any, it's not going to get much worse than this. And it could get better than this. I remember, Seth, during the bye week, we did that episode where we revisited the championship odds. Who would we take now?
There were some nice trend charts we had pulling up. We were fancy that day.
Yeah. And I remember Martin Truex Jr. had a pretty high number. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was something that looked a hell of a lot better when he was in the round. When we hit it, he was in the round of 8. Even though he hadn't had a good playoffs, he still had a shot there. Truex is a guy on my board that I have at 10-1 on DraftKings. Maybe he was a little better elsewhere. I did write down Denny Hamlin also at 7-1. Just because I feel like eventually this guy's got to get the monkey off his back. I know Mark Martin never won a championship, but generally these generationally great racers have all won at least one title, and you feel like Hamlin's due. But again, that could be a number where, say he wins once early or doesn't win early, that could rise up a little bit, give you some better odds there. But both of these Joe Gibbs guys still definitely worth looking at.
Yeah, I can't fault you there. I'll talk a little more about Denny here when we get to win totals, but I'll throw one more chalky one before I have a couple fun long shots and see if you guys have any as well. Championship winner, I did go 6-1 on Larson, and I know what you're saying, Phil. Like that's kind of a tough number to swallow, but everywhere else I was finding was 4.5, 5.5, 5-1. I thought 6-1 on ESPN Bet was a little bit of a value, so I did go half a unit there. Just a guy who continues to put himself in positions to win. And I think this new short track package is really going to benefit him at places like Phoenix, Richmond, Martinsville this spring, where he can really kind of rip the car a little bit around it and get going a little bit more there around the corners. So I like him there. I don't think I need to. I've written this up for betting pros. I don't think I need to go in the full statistics for Larson, but guy's been a weapon the last couple of years. I also like him to make the championship for +120 at Caesars. I think that sounds really good, especially when you think about Las Vegas and Martinsville being 2 of the 3 semifinal round races. He was great at Martinsville last season, won in the spring, was very competitive in the fall, and Vegas he's great at as well. So I feel good about him at least making the championship for there.
Yeah, I'll be talking about Larson when we get a little bit further down in the episode here about a very proppy bet. But I actually see your point about the 6-1. If he goes out and starts winning races like we assume, then that's when you got him 6-1. You said
6-1, yes. Yep.
That's a pretty good number for Kyle Larson. So I can't fault you on that. The only way that stays there is if he struggles, and I don't think a lot of people are making the bet that he's going to struggle through the first half of this year. So Yeah, that's one that I would probably make an exception. I might give that a look.
Okay.
And to Elliot's point about Truex, I mean, I talked about Truex on the pod. I won't get too far into him, but the funny thing that I think it's worth mentioning here with you guys is, in looking at it, his numbers from last year, like we look at his season last year, it was dismal. After Michigan, he didn't have a top 5. Even with that, his overall season numbers are almost identical to Ryan Blaney, who went in to win the championship. That's how weird, like razor thin it is, right? Like they have
Yes.
almost the same exact stats on paper, but yet one of them's knocked out in like the round of 12 and the other one's winning the championship. So that's how close it is. So when you got a guy 10-1, that same number is what I saw for Truex. I think that's a good point to make, because, even if he wins a race earlier in the season and he struggles again, just like last year, his number's not dropping below 10-1. He's won the race. He's locked into the playoffs. The books aren't going to give us that double-digit number on him anymore. It's going to be like 8, maybe 9. So it's pretty solid to look at somebody like that. So yeah, I mean, the last guy that I'll throw out, and then we'll comment. I know you have like a really long shot guy, Seth,
Yeah.
and but the last guy that I wanted to bring up on this show was Tyler Reddick, 18-1 for the championship. And I want to talk about his championship 4 number as well, which is plus 325. So my thought on Reddick is, I feel like it's time. Like, we've got guys each year. We've got breakout guys. Last year it was William Byron. He's winning 6 races. And I'm going to comment on Byron in a second, kind of in the same vein when we get to the Larson conversation. So I feel like it's one breakout season really per year, and Tyler Reddick to me has all the makings for a breakout season. Let's talk about the end of last year. He finishes 6th for the championship, gets knocked out in that last round at a dismal Martinsville race, but he was in it, like in that round of 8. And if he sneaks into the championship going to Phoenix, like that's a racetrack that he could win. So
Certainly.
You look at the year and the way the schedule is set up, all these road courses, he's a factor. I mean, I'm not saying anything that you guys don't already know. And then these high tire wear tracks, like he's a factor every single time. And
Absolutely.
so when you're looking at, you stack all those races up, right? It's not 36 like real chances to win, but it's like 10, 12. Like Tyler Reddick is probably going to be on your card.
It's enough to get you to the Final Four for sure.
Exactly. Like enough to build up your playoff points and set him up. And you look at his maturity level, right? When he was over at RCR, he was kind of doing more with less. And then he has that awkward exit there, the landing to a newer team who's like just getting themselves going with Bubba. And now you're adding him. And it was kind of like a weird first year. And then last year he did well. This is the year. Like, this is the growth year. This is the maturity year, in my opinion, for Tyler Reddick. Kind of like a put up or shut up situation. If he's going out and he's, squirting a 1 win out there, it's like, oh, what the hell? Like, what's going on here? Is he not the guy we thought he was? But I expect, his win total is 2.5, and it's like plus 165. I actually think, and look at that right there. We have it on.
On it.
Up there, right on the money, dude. Wow. That number, I would be interested in taking that, like kind of personally. I don't think I would say like, hey, everyone, take this, which is why I'm saying I kind of like the championship 4 number a little bit better, because he could still win 2 races and kind of make his way through. But 2.5, like I think he could win 3, and he's plus 165. Like, so I think you guys get my point, and I don't want to keep beating a dead horse here, but he's someone that I'm highly focused on this year.
Can we see him get the finishes he deserves? That's what Ellie and I talked about in our preview show a couple weeks ago, and that's kind of where I still am. And I like that 2311 is kind of taking that next step as an organization. It seems they're getting the new shop. They're kind of, really leveling up. I think. I think like maybe this isn't quite the year where I think they're potentially championship contenders, but I think they're right on the cusp, and I think they're going to continue getting there closer and closer every year. So, Elliot, your thoughts on Tyler Reddick? Because he's kind of like my Boju a little bit. Like I just can't seem to get this guy right. Sometimes I feel like outside of the road courses.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to add on Reddick other than that he was one of the championship 4 numbers I had also. You know, you guys really laid out the case for him really well. If he can get those finishes done, if he can go out and win Coda again, it's going to look like a pretty damn good bet if he can stay consistent at least throughout the rest of the year. Even if he only has those 1 or 2 wins in the regular season, still can hit that over 2.5 in the playoffs and still can manage to finish well enough or win at the right time to get into that Final Four. And when you're there, anybody can win. It's one of those places where he can win. I'll just throw out a couple more numbers there, and then we'll get a little more in-depth on another driver, and then let you throw out your real crazy one, Seth. So also at plus 325 for the championship 4 is Kyle Busch. Thought that was intriguing. Chris Buescher is at plus 400 to make the championship 4, and so is this next guy who I also have the cup title number on at plus 2,200, Ross Chastain. This was a guy who was
you got 22 to 1 on him.
I saw on, I think on DraftKings, 22 to 1 for Chastain.
Oh.
So, you know, with Chastain, this was a guy who was only a couple hundred feet away from the title after the Hail Melon in 22. Goes out and wins Phoenix, even though he was eliminated.
Yes.
Trackhouse is still building up. We talked about 2311 as a building team. Trackhouse is a building team also that is about, you know, maybe not at their apex, but they are to the point now where you have to seriously think about them as title contenders to win multiple races. We'll talk about some of their other team cars and team drivers later. Ross Chastain's the top dog there. He's performed well enough to show he's the top dog there, and them getting close once again to getting into that championship 4, making the championship, being one of the hot drivers of the season. I can very easily see that for this number 1 team.
I'm right on Ross with you as well, and obviously I'm a little biased. I do love me some Ross Chastain, but I got him 20 to 1 on FanDuel, and this was a couple weeks ago, so maybe that number's come down a little bit elsewhere. But I was seeing him at like 14, 15, 16 to 1 a lot of places, so I thought 20 was a good value. I went about not a full unit, but a little under a full unit. And the thing I like about Ross that I don't think a lot of people talk about, this guy is just a damn good overall driver. His wins in the next gen era have come on a road course, a super speedway, an intermediate, and a short track now with winning Phoenix. So he can kind of win anywhere. And like you said, Elliot, he's great at Phoenix. So if he gets there in the end and you're holding a fucking 20 to 1 ticket going into Phoenix, you're feeling damn good, and you're probably getting a cash out option as well. So I'm with Ross. I'm with you here with Trackhouse. Phil, your thoughts on Ross? And I know he's obviously a polarizing driver, so I imagine one of the 3 of us have to be off him this season. Is that you?
That is me, but you guys are kind of I mean, that number, it's less about Ross and more about that 22 to 1 number. Like even 20 to 1, that's pretty crazy, because I think I saw what you saw, which was like 15, 14.
Yes. Yes. I wasn't interested at that number.
Yeah, that didn't wet the whistle. So my thoughts on, so you mentioned Trackhouse, right? And I think this is why I was anxious to talk with you guys, because, and there's a couple other drivers that I'm anxious to kind of do this about too, because, you know, on my podcast, I'm kind of just talking into a microphone. I don't have anybody to chirp me back. With
your wife upstairs, if she's listening to you, she can give you a little hit the floor a couple times.
Chastain. So I had Chastain under 1.5 last year. And if I didn't have Blaney like 6 ways from Sunday and won a bunch of money, that would have killed me. The fact that he hit that 2 in Phoenix, like not even part of the championship 4, like I would have been really pissed. I wasn't. But I, on the pod, took under 1.5 again. And it's because I think Trackhouse is a little different now than 2311, because I think they're trying to do too much, like too quickly.
Okay. I could see that.
Suarez is in a lifeboat by himself. Like they've done, it's so awkward. And you got to think that people at Trackhouse are saying to themselves, how are we going to fix this team? Right.
Yeah.
And then they've done this thing with Zane Smith where they've signed Zane. He's on Spire, but it's like super awkward. He's like floating around. Are they going to do 3 teams?
Yeah.
4 teams when it comes to SVG, which is like a whole nother curveball. It's like, you know, it's like a company that like doesn't understand what their identity is right now. And that scares me a little bit. And I think Ross, you know, to hit that championship bet would really have to outperform what the team is giving him, just because I see them as discombobulated. I think their company mantra is just kind of all over the place. They don't really have something. So that being said, he is great at pointing people to death. So I actually don't mind my under 1.5 and getting to the championship 4. Like that's what he could have done last year. Just missed out doing last year. So I, obviously, if you guys are right, my under 1.5 would most likely be wrong. But I might try to play insurance card here and take that wild number for a title, because that is crazy. I would be kicking myself if he was in the finals, but I didn't take that after talking to you guys. So that's my thoughts on Ross. I mean, it's a little bit different.
We got Derek saying bet with Phil, $1,000 on Chastain goes over 1.5 wins. Woo-hoo.
Damn, Derek's a confident man over there.
No, I'm not taking that bet.
Well, my counterpoint on that is you say discombobulated, I say diversified. They're going out, they're doing MotoGP, all this other stuff. That's going to help. I mean, any money they make on that,
they are doing some weird
or that'll help fund the NASCAR program. Obviously, they've got guys in a bunch of different places. They've got a lease a seat at Spire with Zane Smith. They've got a shove SVG and a full-time Xfinity ride to see if he actually sucks or not on oval races. Because remember, we've seen lots of guys that were really good in other disciplines of racing. Dario Franchitti is one of the better IndyCar drivers that's ever raced, and he sucked in NASCAR. He was terrible.
That's a name I've heard in a while. Yeah,
Nancy was terrible at that time also. Juan Pablo Montoya wasn't a superstar in NASCAR. Some of these other guys coming from other disciplines are not quite as strong as you'd have them believe. So he's kind of an insurance policy almost. We'll talk a little more about Suarez when we get to the wins bets. I know we're almost there. Seth, I want to give you your opportunity to throw out this wild title bet. The Trackhouse, they're in a spot. I think Suarez is under contract until 25, but you can get out of a contract real easily in NASCAR. And if anybody knows that, it's Suarez. And I would feel terrible for the guy if he has an all right season again, but he can't get to victory lane, doesn't make the playoffs, or gets bounced in the round of 16, and they throw him out of that ride in a year or two. Because, he's a good little racer. I'm glad that he won the Mexico Series race there at the Clash also. But Trackhouse, that could hurt them if they find out that they've grown too much too quickly. Last season didn't start the best for them. It finished a lot better than it started. But there is potential in this group, and Chastain being the lead dog, if he's got the stones, which I think he does, could end up paying handsomely. And I will verify that 22-1, because you guys saying it's crazy. I'm like, maybe I was looking in the wrong column. Like, I don't know. I will double check on that, and hopefully we can make a little point.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, now's the time for the long shot. This is about the number and less about the driver, I think. But I think I caught FanDuel sleeping here at the wheel. No surprise with FanDuel. I think this is kind of like if you're a motorsports bettor, you kind of know that FanDuel, they like to put their tippy toes into this water, and then they get caught sleeping at the wheel sometimes. So I'm going Erik Jones, half a unit for the championship winner at 120-1. And I think this is just a blatant misprice. Like Josh Berry is 60-1 at FanDuel. John Hunter Nemechek and Noah Gragson are also 120-1. Like Erik Jones has won multiple times in the Cup Series. The guy's been in the playoffs twice before in his 7 full-time seasons. And I think like Erik Jones last season, terrible dog shit equipment, no support from Chevy, 7 top 10 still a year ago. Like there's nothing that's stopping Erik Jones from winning Daytona, from winning Talladega, winning Darlington, the last, which is going to be the last regular season race now as well, and getting himself into the playoff. I think if you get into the playoffs with Erik Jones and you have this ticket, I'm going to cash out. I think they're going to offer you something, because they're going to drop what would his price do you think Phil dropped to if he got into the top 16 into the playoffs?
That's exactly the point. You're betting on him at this number to win a race, and if he wins a race, he'll drop probably. I don't know what the number would be, but you'd have to look at other drivers like Josh Berry, right? So if he's 60-1 and not in the win column, not geared up to be in the championship hunt in the end of the race, like I'd have to see he is at least better than him a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good jump. So this is exactly the point that I was going to make when I saw this on your sheet. You take this bet and you hope you got 4 super speedways, 2 more with Atlanta. Yeah. That's 6. Are they going to Darlington twice still? I mean, that's 8. So, I mean, that's 8 races where Erik Jones has a legitimate chance to win a race. And all you need is 1 to see how the sports book operates in that case. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's not out of this world. You're not actually taking this because you think he's going to win the championship.
Right.
No,
You're doing
absolutely.
this to play the market, and that's the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's the interesting strategy here because it's like you really are picking up a bet that there's no shot of winning. Because I mean, we love the
Mhm.
parity with the next gen car. We love Erik Jones as a driver. He's super talented. Legacy Motor Club making the good move over to Toyota. Realistically, there's maybe 13 guys that could win a championship. Even going into the playoffs every year, there's 2 or 3 guys that's like, good job, you won a race. We know Michael McDowell's not winning the fucking championship. Erik Jones is not winning the championship either. I mean, if Legacy becomes a big time power with Toyota, maybe somehow they jump 23-11 and
Yeah.
they get rolling. I'm not doubting it, but it would be interesting to see how does the market react. Can you get a better number? Can you get a cash out? How can you work that? I'm intrigued, but it's definitely bold, especially because hell will freeze over if Jones is even in that championship war, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But it is possible. It is possible.
Absolutely. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get into some win totals here. I'm excited. I'm excited for this market specifically because I was dog shit in this market a year ago. I went 1 for 2. I lost money, which it really sucks to lose money in these NASCAR futures because you're hanging on
Yeah.
to them for freaking 3/4 of the year. So I'm hoping to bounce back here. Phil, you were the guy, you're kind of the voice of reason in my year last year. You're like, hey, I don't know about that one. And, you kind of talked me off some ledges, but it was too late. So let's start out here with a couple of your win totals. What are you liking here from a season-long perspective?
Well, Elliot called out, or I think somebody mentioned Hamlin, and somebody had talked about Hamlin over 2.5 wins. I'm
Yes. Yep.
on that as well. So we
What
don't have
number
to
did you get on that?
plus 110.
Oh, okay.
I saw plus
Okay.
105, so plus 110.
Okay, I got plus 108 at Bet Rivers.
Yeah. So I mean, we don't have to dig back into the Hamlin talk, but I do think that he's due for a good year. He does have the Clash jinx. I don't know if you guys know about the Clash jinx, but the Clash winner on average doesn't win their first race until the 10th race of the year, and it's been
Ooh.
the last
Well,
few years. So
that is true, and that's a big chunk of the regular season. But for a guy like Denny Hamlin, who can win anywhere and has won anywhere, you can get 3 wins in the last 16 races.
exactly. That's why I'm not as scared this time around. But yeah, so I like that just because it's plus money. And he did cross the stripe first last year 3 times, so it's not out of the question. Where I'll go though first is I think Hendrick has a couple guys that the sports books are kind of disrespecting a little bit, and I'm paying a little bit of juice here, but you only pay the juice when you lose, and I don't think we're losing this bet. It's Alex Bowman over to win a race. I think Alex Bowman can win a race this year. It's minus 145 is what I saw it, so it's a little juicy, but the point that I'm making on this one is he has won a race every year that he's raced full time since 2018. He doesn't win a lot of races. He had one breakout year, like we talked about with some of these other guys. He had a 5-win race or 5-win season at 1.4.
4 in 2021. Yeah.
But he has at least 1 win since 2018. So except for last year where he was hurt,
injured,
and that threw off his season. And before he got hurt, 6 out of 7, the first 7 races, he finished in the top 10. So he was off to a good start last year.
He was the points leader heading into Richmond before that big Hendrick penalty that they
We were
saw.
fucking hammering him for the top 10 every single week before he got hurt, it felt like.
Yeah, and then he comes back, and obviously, he's going to be a little off, and they just couldn't put it together. I mean, that team was just kind of them and the next guy I'm going to talk about when it comes back to me, off the rest of the year. He's got a contract. He's locked up through this year, as far as I know. I think he has like a pretty good extension.
I think Ally is on board through 26. I want to say at least 20.
Ally loves him. Ally loves this man. Yeah.
So you think about this from his perspective. Like, he's always had people chirping at him like, oh, when's he out of that 48? Get somebody else in there. He's a hack, all that. The reason why I like this number is statistics say he can get 1 win. He's done it. And you never know when that win's going to come.
That
right?
is true.
It comes at a wonky racetrack out of nowhere. And that's why I like this like umbrella over the season for me is like, if he steals a win from a guy that I had that week, I still am hitting. So Bowman, over 0.5 is where I'm going with this one.
I don't mind it at all. I think you should also keep an eye out for fucking whatever we can get him on to qualify on the pole for Daytona.
Yeah,
It seems like
his odds for front row Daytona 500 should be about minus 100,000.
That's a fact.
I mean, my God.
Yeah,
So Seth, I'll let you. You know, I'll have more to say about Bowman probably. So
I got nothing, man. Like
right.
I saw the number. And I was like, if it wasn't so juicy, I'd be half tempted myself. But I'm laying enough juice in the Xfinity series with one I'll share later that I don't need to go this path with Bowman. But I get the call.
Yeah, and I'm surprised at myself even that I'm going to be the Bowman doubter here. As watchers of this show will know that I am the exact opposite. Thanks for the contract clarification there, Derek. I'm sure a Byron extension will be wrapped up too pretty quickly. But with Bowman, you know, he was still so inconsistent. And I know part of that was the injury. Most of that was the injury. But also, he's got that win every year. He lucked into 4 wins in 2021. He's also had the gigantic summer slump. Excuse me.
Every year.
If he can't get that win early, there's going to be 10 weeks in the summer where he'll get one top 10 and not look in contention for any of it, at least if this is the same Bowman of old. And I just lost my train of thought here. I had another point to say. But with Bowman, here's my point. He's still at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of Hendrick drivers. Like, it's a talented team. It's probably the most talented team out there other than Gibbs front to back. He still is kind of at the bottom there. If there's going to be a week where it's Hendrick that's on, is the 48 car going to be the best car? Or is it going to be, damn, he ran third, but Larson just spanked the field? I mean, if his over-under was at 1.5, I would definitely slam the under on that. It's definitely, with the over-under being the half, I don't want to drink that much juice, but it would be a pretty tasty glass of Minute Maid if you hit it.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. I just kind of want to add on to Phil going with the over 2.5 for Denny Hamlin, because that was one of my favorite win totals I saw. I thought to get him at plus money was very disrespectful for a guy who has averaged 4 wins in the last 4 years. And also, like, let's keep in mind, Denny Hamlin is a hell of a plate racer, and he hasn't won at a fucking super speedway since COVID year 2020. I think with a new nose for Toyota, he has a way better shot here, especially now that they have 2 extra Toyotas. Like, I know that usually doesn't matter, but at these drafting tracks, you really do need numbers at the end of the race, and he hasn't had it in the past. Now I think he gets it. So I'm with you there, Phil. Like, I took some really chalky drivers, Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano for my win total. So I got nothing left in the Cup Series win totals other than a couple ones I wanted to talk out with you guys that I was thinking about. Elliot, do you have anything that you're down on or considering getting down on here before speed weeks begin in Daytona?
I've also got others to talk out. We'll see if they overlap at all. One more point on Hamlin. He may have the clash curse, but he's also a 3-time Daytona 500 champ. He could go out there, wipe out one of those wins right away very easily.
It would be nice.
Question here from Derek. Do books offer in-season win total bets? If so, should we wait? I've never seen the NC. I think as soon as we go green at Daytona, you're not going to see these again. So you could wait all the way up till Daytona, maybe up until qualifying and pass those dual races, Derek. But I think if you do want to get invested, now is probably the time.
Yeah, I've never seen them hang those out there post Daytona. It's you got to get your ducks in a row before the first race.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I don't even think for a championship 4 you can get it after after we go green here in Daytona as well. I know you can championship overall, but I don't know about the championship 4.
Yeah, Caesars had that hanging mid-season last year.
Okay.
But,
okay.
Not hanging. They were adjusting
throughout,
but it was just that book. Nobody else.
Okay. Elliot, what else do you have for win totals here?
So again, a couple to talk out. We mentioned about the Chastain bet over. The over and under is 1.5, and they're both at minus 115 over on Caesars. And Kyle Busch has the same odds. Again, he feels like a guy that can probably get over a 1.5.
Yeah, he was plus 122. Okay. Derek saw him that's a bet Rivers, I think. I saw him earlier, and that's actually one of the ones I wanted to talk out as well with you guys.
Yeah, well, that's a better number than I had for sure.
It almost feels like a fucking trap, though. It almost feels like a trap because, like, we have seen Kyle Busch have 1-win seasons. We're not that far removed from one as well. So, like, I kind of have that 2021 or 2022 season in the back of my head still. Like, I think we should be betting this, as Stan's kind of alluding here. But what are your thoughts on it, Elliot? Because I'm mixed as hell.
Yeah, I mean, for at that number, I was considering it with both the over and the under at minus 115. If you've got the over at plus 122, I certainly like that a lot more.
Friends in Pittsburgh, man, they know what they're fucking doing. Bet Rivers has been the early season MVP so far, man. They have great fucking odds for everything. Love them. Yeah, Phil, how do you feel about Kyle Busch? How do you feel about Rowdy this year? He does not have no truck team, no energy drink, so the dude only has one thing in his son to be focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and kind of like what we're saying about Joey Logano, right? Distractions or whatever's like going on off the track. Like clearly that was a big deal, like a huge business deal going on behind the scenes, and that's over with now. So
worst time of the year to happen too for him, honestly.
Yeah. So plus 22, I mean, that's plus 122 for over 1.5. That's not bad. I stared at that number for 25 minutes and I was just like, I before I was doing my podcast, I was like, can I get behind this or not? Where I landed, and this is one that I wanted to bring up to you guys.
Yeah.
I am recently signed up with Bet365. They're not available a lot of places, but at Jersey's hop, skip, and a jump for me. So,
you sneaky son of a bitch living on the border.
Little Walt Whit bridge. So they have head-to-head season win totals, which I fucking love.
Oh,
that's really cool.
That's
and
cool.
so,
I mean, you're not all that far. You could take that drive over there too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
we do not condone illegal betting on this podcast.
No.
You are presently in New Jersey at the time of making the bet, therefore it does make it legal. All right. There's a
legal. Yes, that's a fact. So I was looking at it and I saw, all right, well, is he available in like a head-to-head deal? Because like I can't get behind it. This is where it gets a little weird. I don't believe in Chris Buescher this year. I am not buying in to the hype.
Neither does Dale Jr. Dale Jr. Neither. Yeah.
Well, good, because Dale's usually right about a lot of things. Head-to-head wins. Kyle Busch versus Chris Buescher, even money. Actually, it was minus 120 versus minus 110 when I got it. I took Kyle Busch. I believe in Kyle Busch more than I believe in Chris Buescher. I think that we're getting bias the wrong way for Chris Buescher, right? With Bowman and Elliot that I'm going to touch on in a second. Like we're getting bias the way where they don't think they're that good because of a poor performance last year. We're getting biased like they think that he's going to take like another step. And I see RFK. I'm cheering for them. I like Brad Keselowski. I want Keselowski to do well. I don't have anything against Buescher, but I see them kind of like this year's Trackhouse, right? Last offseason, everybody's like pumping Trackhouse's tires. Oh, Trackhouse.
Yep.
And then they went out and laid an egg. 2 wins, and the last one was a little spot at the end of the year. The Project 91 got a dub, but you get the point. I don't see Chris Buescher doing that again. 3 wins this year, like I don't think so. His over-under is 1.5 as well. I think he goes under. I really do. And it's tough to say, right? But at the end of the day, I believe Kyle Busch is going to do better this season than Chris Buescher. And at almost even odds, I'm going with Rowdy. Give me KFB in this head-to-head matchup. And good night, Jim Kite. Like that's what I'm going with there. So that's how I wanted to bring up Kyle Busch tonight. And I'll tell you what, though, that plus 122 is pretty intriguing. I didn't see that number.
Man, Jersey has taken a lot of wins lately. People like to shit on New Jerseys. They got Bet 365. We got recreational weed out there now. Like I might be meeting up with Phil on the bridge for a beer and a couple bets here in a couple weeks after hearing that. I'm right behind you, man. I think we will see a little bit of regression and maybe just some like leveling out of RFK in general. I think Brad maybe gets in victory lane, but I think Buescher maybe gets 1 win, maybe. So yeah, I'm there with you, Elliot. You're usually the voice of reason here on Chris Buescher. Would you be against betting what Phil just did here, Rowdy versus him head to head for the season long?
I would take KFB also. I do think that Buescher is he's talented. I think RFK is going to be better. But it could be a season. We just talked about Alex Bowman, 4 wins in 2021, and he may never get to that point again. Chris Buescher, 3 wins last year, had a good summer.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that good
Had
of
a
a
good
summer,
summer.
that much luck.
Had
Had
a
a,
good
had a real good summer there. Does he get a win? I think he does get a win. Does he win more than Kyle Busch? I don't think so.
Yeah, that was like the summer, when you're in your senior year of high school, you go down to the beach with all your friends for senior week. Like that's the summer of your life, man. That was what Chris Buescher just relived there. So good call out there. Anything else you guys have for win totals that we haven't touched on? I'm tapped out there other than some various racing future markets we're going to look at here in a little bit.
I had one to bring up, if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I keep alluding to it. I might as well just get to it. Chase Elliott. So
Okay.
got the fanboys out there. I'm not trying to be a fanboy, but it's 2.5 is the number. And I feel like this is a reaction to Chase and what went down last year with the 0 wins. Plus 130 is the number that I saw for 2.5 wins. My mindset here is like, first of all, the plus money is crazy. He's had 3+1, 3+ wins, every year since 2018, except for 2021, where he had 2 wins. Last year, injured, throws it off. Last year's season, I want to put myself in Rick Hendrick's shoes, where he comes back from the injury, probably too soon, and tries to force it. Didn't really have it, but everyone was saying, well, he'll get the win. He'll get the win. He'll make the playoffs, and then doesn't. And then he's essentially just on cruise control the rest of the year.
Yep.
If I'm Rick Hendrick, I am sitting down with Chase Elliott and saying, look, dude, you're the most popular driver, but you're not fucking around with my car and my money anymore. You had your vacation season. Okay. You had your mess around time. It's time to come back. Like, he can do 3 wins in his sleep. Hendrick Motorsports is a top tier, if not A1 program in this sport. And Chase Elliott is right there, or was. And so I'm not going to let what happened last year distract me from the fact that the 9 team is a varsity level seat. And Chase Elliott has proven to be a really good driver. 3 wins. He's done that consistently. And so I think to get plus money for that in a guy that I have to imagine has a fire under his ass from himself personally, but also the big man, the boss. I don't scoff at that. I think I'm into that. So I wanted to throw that out there because I know Chase is, he's kind of polarizing too, right? Like, I feel like gambling is like on him because of the fanboys. So what do you guys think about that?
Well, I love this picture that you're painting of mob boss Rick Hendrick in a dark room. You're the most popular guy, win some damn races. Dale Earnhardt Jr. sat in that 88 car and didn't win for 4 years. Everything was fine. After that win in Michigan, didn't win for another year.
He was bringing a lot of sponsorship money too.
Yeah, but I'm saying most popular driver, Chase. Obviously,
you're right.
NASCAR in itself is not as sponsorship heavy or bulletproof as it was in the the late aughts and early 2010s. But they kept Dale Jr. and they did everything for that damn man to get back to victory lane. They flipped the whole team's crew chiefs around. They did everything under the sun to get him the win after not winning for 4 years. So come back and talk to me if Chase still hasn't won in 2027, and then maybe I buy it. But I do agree, though. He is enough of a competitor. He will put that fire under his ass. He doesn't need Mr. H to come do it. He will do it. And I do think that a couple of wins, getting back to what we got used to as normal Chase Elliott, is going to come in 24.
I wish the number was 1.5. And then I think I would have been on it because I was
way
looking
more confident at 1.5, obviously.
Yeah, I was looking for him in this market too, Phil. And I just couldn't get behind the 2.5, but like we're not that far removed from 2022 5-win season for Chase Elliott. To go from 5 to 0 is just such a stark difference. And I mean, he's going to be the favorite when we go to just about every road course that SVG isn't at, probably.
I think SVG might be in every road course this year.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
He hasn't been like that dominant at road courses for a couple years, but he is a factor every time you go to a road course. But I think it's more about just like last year it was a wonky year. Like he fucked up, broke his leg, and then the rest of the year was like off the track weird.
Yeah.
So the hope is that he can get back to where he was, like Elliot just said. And If he doesn't, well, then now if it was plus 1.5, I think we'd be on that, but I would expect that number to be really juicy.
That's true.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
drinking the
it's like,
gallon a minute, mate, if you get that number.
yeah.
Yeah.
So tough to say. I would actually kind of like be fine with 2 and just eating it if
Okay.
it's a tie, but
Yeah.
it's definitely a fun conversation to have. That's for sure.
Elliot, any final win totals for you here in the Cup Series before we talk about some various markets?
Yeah, I like the idea of going into other markets better than some of these other coin flip numbers I have. So let's
Okay.
do that.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that. I got a really polarizing one. So I guess, should I save mine? Should I let's just bring it
Up to
out.
you,
All
man.
right.
Yeah, go
All
ahead.
right.
Fire away.
Let's just so it feels terrible taking the juice in a season long bet, but I think in one like this that I feel this confident, I'm going to go for it. I'm already down on it. I went 1.5 units on it. I went Jesse Love over half a win in the Xfinity series. It's minus 140 right now on Caesars. This number, I've been watching it for a couple weeks and it continues to get fucking worse. And I'm worried that by the time Daytona rolls around, it's going to be minus 150, minus 160. And those of you new to Jesse Love, this is a talented young driver who won half the races in the ARCA Menard series last year, 10 of 20, was also top 5 in 17 of those races, which doesn't matter as much in the ARCA series when there's only a handful of full-time drivers. But still, I have the hope that this guy can translate to the next level. We saw him run 3 Truck Series races last year, finished inside the top 10 in 2 of them, 13th in the other. And it wasn't that long ago that this RCR number 2 car in the Xfinity series that he's taking over was brilliant. With Tyler Reddick back in 2019, he won his second title. And I know Sheldon Creed, like, the dude's cursed. I don't know if it's the glasses or what it is, but he can't get to victory lane, but still had 7 top 5s, 15 top 10s here. And I think what I like about Jesse Love here in this market, despite laying some juice, is that he's 12th in the championship odds. And I feel like there's just a lack of talent in this series a little bit. You still have guys like Allgaier, the vets, AJ Allmendinger coming back, but it just feels like it's lacking a little bit of juice here with Josh Berry leaving, no Noah Gragson again, no John Hunter Nemechek, at least overall here. And I think with the roles, the set, the way they are, that we can't see the Cup Series drivers racing in the playoffs makes me like this even more. It might be September, it might be August, but I think Jesse Love gets in victory lane here. We've had an average of 12.3 drivers win an Xfinity Series race in the last 3 seasons. I think we see that continue, and I think Jesse Love is on the receiving end of a win here.
I like that. I like that a lot. That 2 car is good. He's a good driver. I think he gets a win.
Wow.
What kind of track are you seeing him get it done at? Like, is he that versatile, you think, or is there a specific type of track?
I would imagine just one of these like mile and a halves, go out there and go win in Vegas or something.
It's interesting with Jesse Love. I think he's a guy who is just an overall talented driver. He kind of reminds me a little bit just of like a Ty Gibbs. But when we saw what he did last year in the Cups or in the Truck Series, it was kind of at some of these different tracks. There was a Gateway, there was a Kansas, there was a Phoenix. Ended up finishing 4th at Phoenix. That was kind of a fluky finish with everything that happened in that fucking race at the end. But I think he can do better at these shorter flat tracks. Like, I would expect him to do well at a Kansas, at somewhere like a Martinsville potentially as well. But I mean, he does it everywhere. At least he did in the ARCA Menard series. So I like him a lot, and I wish there was a Frankie Muniz bet. I'd be willing to get down on some Frankie Muniz.
He still hasn't announced a ride yet. He may not end up being full time in Xfinity like we thought he would. So as far as I know, he doesn't have anything on record yet. But I mean, I hope that he does. I think that he's got a shot. The Rhett Jones ARCA team was not necessarily the best equipment for him to be in. I think this guy, go out there, give it a year, give it a shot. It'd be nice to see him land somewhere.
And any thoughts from you, Phil, on Jesse Love, Frankie Muniz, or any of these ARCA drivers coming up?
Well, I think Jesse Love, I mean, it's a shame that you're saying it's juicy because, like, I don't know. I'm not like full on Xfinity, like that knowledgeable, but it seems like that should be more close to like even odds.
I was hoping, yeah.
But the 2 car can clearly, run well. Like, Creed made it run well for a while, and I love Danny Stockman. He's the crew chief. He is someone in the truck series recently who's just been great.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's matched up with him, I think that's a good deal. So I could see maybe why people are betting it. I mean, it had to have started. I don't know the history of it. People probably bet it down to whatever it's at now.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like that. So a lot of people are like-minded, I have to assume.
We got Derek in the chat saying he likes Sheldon Creed over 1.5 wins. I can't do that. This guy has a monkey on his back,
Yeah,
and
he's over at Gibbs now, so
I
you
know
how
he's in
often they
those.
win
I
Xfinity
know,
races.
I know he's in the better equipment now, but still, I'm a little superstitious. Anything
He's
from
got a truck title. I mean, he's not that he's never won anything.
yeah, I know, but he can't. I don't know. I don't know. That guy choked a lot of fucking races, and I'm not an Xfinity bettor. Like I want to put that disclaimer out there. I tail a lot of these great guys in the industry. Like Derek's podcast. I know they have a great Xfinity podcast over there as well. Like I do a lot more tailing in Xfinity than actual doing some research, but it's fun to dive into. Phil, anything from you in other various racing future markets, whether that's F1, whether that's the truck or the Xfinity series, or even Indy?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short here, even though I am very long-winded. But with the trucks, the head-to-head markets in the trucks, very, very lopsided. There's only 6 options that Caesars has. I haven't seen any other books offer like win totals for trucks. And the drivers that they chose, like it's pretty lopsided with if you're going over, under. So, that's less intriguing unless you really there's one interesting one, which is Kyle Busch. They have him over under 2.5. The under is the heavy favorite because he's only allowed to run 5. And so that one's interesting. It's fun that they put that out there. I don't know if you can bet it because I would probably go under. But as far as a truck bet, I'll throw a name out there for you, kind of like what you did with Erik Jones, Seth, and hopes that maybe you can cash this out. But it's Jake Garcia to win a championship in the truck. He's plus 2,200, and he's picking up the 13 truck for Thor Sport, and they're finally throwing a real driver into that truck. And I think you're going to see a huge difference in this. I know that Cody Zeeb's on the same wavelength as me here. I heard him talk about it on their pod. I was texting him about it. Like, yes, thank you. This is a driver that I think we're going to see some good improvement for that truck.
He's young, isn't he? Like, I don't even think he's 20 yet, right?
No, he's young, and he did very young, and he did well last year, like really well, surprisingly good. So they're stealing a good guy. He drove the 35 truck last year, I believe, for McAnally, and they got him over now on Thor Sport to fill in for Deegan. And you look at Crafton, he's hit or miss. They have his win total up there. It's weird. Ben Rhodes is Ben Rhodes. He's going to do those things. And then you got Ty Majeski, who I won't touch on right now. I could talk for an hour about him. But if you're looking for some value, like you said, cash out maybe. If Jake Garcia goes out and he wins like a Daytona, he could do that. He's a good super speedway racer. That number drops down. You hold it and hope that he makes the playoffs and can make a run, or see if they offer you a cash out. But Jake Garcia, I think, is a name to watch. So I'll throw that out there since I love talking trucks.
Derek saying Phil equals the truck goat. I like it. I like that call. Elliot, any thoughts on the youngster Garcia or any other special markets you're looking to get invested in?
Yeah, we can circle back to Xfinity in a minute if we want to. With the trucks, though, I definitely got to get down on these a little more. I like the guy who's going into that 38 front row truck, Lane Riggs. You'll remember the name Scott Riggs.
Scott. I have his autograph somewhere. Yeah.
He's run a couple of races here and there. I think he was with Nice a couple of races a few years ago, ran in Colleague Xfinity a couple of races at the end of last season. Every time I've seen this kid race, he's been performing better than you would think. He kind of got pushed around in that Martinsville race toward the end of the Xfinity season last year. But I think he's a guy that knows how to drive a car fast. He's in damn good equipment that's already won a truck title in that 38 truck. He's a plus 1,000 to win a title. Obviously not as sexy of a number, but I think just as sexy of a driver and a guy who I'm really going to keep an eye on to have a big time season in the trucks.
Phil, your thoughts on him?
So we did a preview podcast about each manufacturer, and I mean, he's the big get for them, right? Like filling in for Zane. He's got some big shoes to fill. Performed well enough, to me, I got to see it first for him. And also Matt Mills filling in for whoever he's filling in for. I'm getting them all mixed up now.
Good for him. He's a guy who's been around for quite a few years too, running some of those BJ McLeod back markers. Good that he's in a good ride this year also.
Yeah, they both are taking over for Hocevar and Zane. So I'm cautiously optimistic, I think is the phrase that I used for both of them. I think I believe more in Riggs than I do in Mills this year. But to me, I have them kind of like matched up as a pair because they're filling in for two of the best truck drivers that we've seen in years. So, 10-1, I think is a good number. I think it's more based off of the car because we don't know what Lane is going to bring really like for a full season. But he showed, I think he had a good top 5 run at one track in the trucks last year. He only ran a few, but there's something there. There's some foundation there that they can grow, and they clearly believe in him because that truck is a sought after truck. I mean, there's varsity level trucks, and that was one of them for years. So hopefully he can keep it going.
Yeah, I think that his racing talent, if he can keep it together, obviously, I think that the talent of the team and the truck is going to propel him to multiple wins and being one of those truck title favorites by the time we get to next fall.
Las Vegas is his top 10 run. Was it Las Vegas?
Yeah.
There you go. I was hoping that we would see over-unders on a guy like that, right?
Yeah, right.
The over-unders we saw were Crafton, Rhodes, Busch, Corey Heim, and Christian Eckes. We didn't see it on guys like Mills, guys like Lane Riggs, Jake Garcia. I was licking my chops, hoping that they would hang a 0.5 out there and be like, "Let's go!" Yeah. So we didn't get that. Doesn't seem like we're gonna get it, but those are both names, right? To keep your eyes on week to week in the Truck Series.
Hell yeah, Elliot, round us out here with an Xfinity one.
Yeah, so I just had some Xfinity championship numbers. I should have looked at some of the wins over under, but my favorite bet here, even though it is it's a bit of a chalky number, AJ Allmendinger at plus 600 to win the title. As nice of a company man as he is, he's down to do whatever for Matt Collig. This man saved his career, gave him a ride, gave him wins. This part of this man has to be pissed the fuck off that he's back in Xfinity. Goes out, wins the Roval and Cup, full-time back in Xfinity. I think he's got to be one of the title favorites. He's going to get a few wins there. Austin Hill at plus 1,000, I thought could be a pretty decent bet also. He's going to go out and lock himself into the playoffs at Daytona. We already know that. That's probably going to happen next Saturday. And if you want to have a little fun, obviously Shane Van Gisbergen is running full-time in a Colleague Xfinity car. And he's at plus 1,500 for the title. And he's another guy. He's going to go out at one of these road courses and spank that field and lock himself in the playoffs. Could be interesting to watch if he doesn't suck on the ovals.
It's going to be fun to watch SVG and Dinger go at it at some of these road courses in the Xfinity series. It'll be
better than most of the Cup battles, I'm sure. These two guys are two of the best that have done it.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I love everything that everyone brought to the table tonight, man. It was a great discussion to kind of look at a betting perspective in a season-long format like this. We already talked kind of a little bit about fantasy and what we expect these drivers to do in that side of things. So it was great to kind of touch on this as well. Phil, tell us one more time, man, where we can find you, how we can best support you as we move throughout the season, man, because you are like one of the veterans of this industry, one of the trailblazers. So we want to make sure everyone's checking out your content as well.
I appreciate it. You could follow me at Full Tank Phil on Twitter. But the podcast is Full Tank with Phil. Wherever you listen to podcasts, it's there. And we put it out. We talk, win totals, money line bets, head-to-heads, top 10s, top 5s, all the markets each week for the upcoming race. And you can also find me on the NASCAR betting preview show Wednesday nights with Derek and the gang. And whenever there's a truck race, we put a podcast out through the NASCAR betting preview show umbrella. So business about to pick up here, boys, as you know.
We're fucking back, boys. It's good to be here. Next time we talk to you will be Friday, actually, of next week. We're not going to be at our normal 8:30 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday. We'll be Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. The duels kind of complicate things a little bit. We're going to have Rod on the show with me. He's going to co-host with me. And then we have Brian Twinning joining us from Angle of Pursuit podcast as well. So going to be a great program on Friday. I'm pumped up to just taking everything that's going to be Speed Weekend Daytona. Elliot, round us out here, man. Let us know anything we haven't touched on and bring us home.
Yeah, hey, I'm excited to watch these next couple of weeks. You know, my day job sometimes turns into a night job. I'm going to be away the next 2 shows, but I'll still keep you on track with my bets and the Between Bets stories you can read over on inbetweenmedia.com. I'll throw some stuff on Betting Pros. You can still follow what I have to say, even though Seth and Rod probably are a little better than I am, I'll admit. And Phil, too. You guys are damn good at what you do. Glad to be able to work with you all. And hey, we would have had some F1 bets, but that market is ridiculous. Max Verstappen's minus 450 for the championship, and his over-under is at 14.5 wins. They raced like 25 times. So
I was
honestly into any F1 because it's Verstappen, one random guy, Verstappen all the way down.
I was trying to parlay the Verstappen win total with my Jesse Love win total, and I couldn't get it.
No.
It wouldn't allow me to do it. So that was kind of a bummer, but I was thinking about it, just so you know. My head was in that ballpark, Elliot.
Yeah, hey, it's fun once in a while to bring out those markets, but we know where our bread and butter is. It's the stock cars, it's NASCAR racing, and we're just a little more than a week away from the Daytona 500 and all of Daytona Speed Weeks, all the greatness that has to offer. I'm happy that you guys, we decided not to do a show during the duels. I remember doing a little bit of play-by-play for the duels. We were talking about an Austin Hill bet, and then it's like, oh, by the way, Austin Hill just crashed out of the duels. He's not going to make the race.
Yeah.
But hey, so be sure to tune in there. I'll be keeping an eye on it if I can. Again, you can track all of our bets anywhere. Like and subscribe. We want to hit that 1,000 subscriber goal by Dover. We're excited to bring you more, race coverage live at the race. I'm counting down the days to get there, and we're just counting down the days to get back to Daytona. Got to be pumped. Lay out those season-long bets, though. First, get them in before Daytona because we don't know if they're going to be around. But anyway, thanks for rolling down the back road with us. As always, best of luck on your bets, and we'll see you again next week. Have a good rest of your night, folks.